Welcome to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast, a show for women entrepreneurs who want to build, grow, and lead successful businesses and high performing teams. I'm your host, Lindsay White, leadership coach and people strategy expert, here to bring you unplugged conversations with a variety of amazing guests who share expert advice and real actionable people strategies for your growing business. Ready to get unplugged? Let's jump in. Welcome to another great episode of the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest. Ashley Stanford is here with me, and Ashley is a digital marketing consultant. She's a freelance expert. She's been doing this for a long time, like more than 15 years in this digital marketing space. And she's a real strategist about it, which I love, right? Like getting after the strategic level of these things. And what she's created, and I love the title, it's called Ice Cream Social. It's a widget that easily bolts on to your website or your checkout flow. And it is super neat. And she's going to tell us all about that. Ashley, so glad to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, Lindsay, I'm so excited.
Me too. I'm pumped.
We got caught up just talking. We almost ran out of time to record a podcast.
Seriously, I'm my own worst enemy. I should just hit record and then we should just go for it right away.
Right?
But yes, I love that. I love when I get to spend a little time with one of my guests. Tell us a little bit more about your journey to becoming a female founder, because I don't even know if I know the whole story.
Sure. So I guess there's a couple stories, I guess, that date back to pre-career. And I'll just start with digital marketing. How
Yeah,
did I get into it?
yeah.
So full transparency, I was not a good student growing up, which I think many founders can
I think
relate
you're
to.
right. Yeah.
Uh, and the only class that I did somewhat well in and excelled in was a program we had at our school called DECA, which is kind of like a marketing and business club, essentially.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so that was the only thing I did well in. So when it came time, graduated high school, I, really wasn't even on that path of looking for colleges or anything, but decided to go to my local community college, which they called 13th grade because it was so tiny and small.
Love it.
Yeah, no bigger than my high school. And went into visual communications technology, which is just a fancy way of basically marketing on the internet.
Yeah.
And I did always know at a young age that I wanted to make a lot of money. So, in choosing my career path, I knew I needed to pick something that did not like limit me, like didn't have a ceiling. So
Yeah.
just the idea of like thinking about jobs and their salaries had no interest to me. And so early on, I just started out in sales, sales and marketing, essentially. They
Yeah.
can hand in hand, but I knew
Yeah.
sales would be a career where there's, not a limit on how much money I could make. And that was, as a young kid, that was my driving factor.
You know what, though? I mean, this is sort of the follow your nose principle of creating a career, right? Like just sniffing it out. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who they did the thing, they went to college, they got the degree, they did, what we were supposed to do, and
Yeah.
then realized the corporate world wasn't for them. And then I think there's another section of people that were like, I didn't want to do that. That I knew that wasn't for me. And I followed my nose and I ended up starting my own business and have never looked back. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, so tell us, I mean, this ice cream social thing is super cool. Tell us about a little bit about that.
Yeah. So throughout my career, I've been doing digital marketing, a lot of consulting, working with agencies, clients, different companies, and one company in particular that I've essentially always worked with my entire career over the last 20 years. Well, before it was other companies, morphed into a new company. It's called Ticket Socket. And I won't get into it, but they essentially do white label ticketing for events.
Oh,
And I have been working with them, and my role within that company was supporting their clients with their marketing strategies. So
okay.
helping their clients sell as many tickets as possible.
Okay.
And I had a client that kind of posed this question to me and said, like, look, Ashley, I need to sell more tickets. I cannot spend more money on Facebook ads. I get that they're working, but like I am at my budget here.
Yeah.
How can we sell more tickets? Like these are the eggs in our basket. What levers can we pull? Like we need to think outside the box here so I can
Yeah.
sell more tickets without spending more money. And I love that. I love getting a problem that has a lot of like red tape around it. Uh,
Yeah.
Prior to events, I worked a lot in medical device marketing.
Okay.
I was just very accustomed to like, how can we do this? But you're not allowed to do this, this, and this. And,
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's where you can get really creative is when you
Yeah.
have to solve a problem, but you have so much red tape and you're in this little box. Like
Yeah.
that's how I am able to kind of get my brain firing and get creative. And so essentially, with that question poised to me is, where the idea for Ice Cream Social really came about.
Love
We
it.
already had somewhat of like a social referral tool, but we wanted to really develop it and essentially have that viral effect for our clients of turning every single customer into a promoter for their event. Because if you're going to, I don't know, a concert of your favorite music artist, you're probably the best person to tell us who else likes that music or that artist. You
Yeah.
probably have a friend that you guys love listening to this artist too. So the customers are really the best source. And it's so much more cost effective than spending more money on ads. And so essentially it was just a feature inside of Ticket Socket. And it started working really well after we developed it further. And we had this thing, COVID hit, and
Yeah.
events were not happening. So
Yep.
that was kind of like a real pivot turning point for our company. And we had some clients that also really needed to pivot and couldn't hold events, but they did have like an e-commerce site. Like
Right.
our clients in the endurance space, maybe also sold tennis shoes online or workout gear. And so they're like, hey, can we use this Ice Cream Social thing on our regular website? And we thought, yeah, we could do that. So while we had this staff of people that couldn't keep busy with working on the events, we kind of used that opportunity to peel off Ice Cream Social as just a feature and create it as its own standalone company.
Wow.
So
You
really it was
know,
born from a need of,
like I don't know who said it, but you know, invent what is it? In like necessity is the mother of invention or something like that. I don't know what's
yeah,
the phrase, but that's really the idea that you've sort of talked about there is that you see the need, you understand some of the parameters, and then you can actually really get inventive because it takes some pieces off the table. Well, what are you going to create with the pieces that are left?
yeah. And I just
Yeah.
think it's a great perspective for entrepreneurs to keep in mind. And this was also kind of part of a podcast I was listening to today, where essentially on this podcast, they're talking about taking like the product and service you sell, but just, creating it in a little way using AI and then selling it online, like a free, like a download or a
Yeah.
$7 download. Anyone in this space is kind of familiar with what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And to me, it's that obviousness that makes it so difficult. Like there could be something right in front of you that could be its own company. But to
Yeah.
you, it's just like, oh, this is just a feature. This is just like a little thing that I have. But essentially, it could be its own standalone product altogether.
Yeah, you know what? And I think sometimes we get so head down that we don't recognize that. That's easy to do.
Right. Because we just want to throw, oh, what's the saying, everything in the sink or
Yeah.
you just want to basically whatever you're selling or offering, you just want to load it in with all these things to try and show this amazing value. But sometimes you could just niche down to one little thing and just sell that. And that's really what people are looking to
Yeah.
pay.
And that is the value.
Yeah.
I really like that, actually. That's brilliant. Because you're right. I think we're always trying to, yeah, we're always trying to throw more things. But actually, the simplicity of the one little thing that's really valuable that fixes the problem,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
for sure.
Oh, I love it. And that's what really what
Right.
ice cream social is the thing.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so nifty. Well, and I think, I always say kind of tongue in cheek that COVID ruined everything. It really didn't. It was a pain. Like it really was such an unpleasant time. But actually, there were such cool things that came out of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah,
We are definitely the bright side people. Always trying to find the silver lining.
100%. The gifts and opportunities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, if COVID hadn't happened, would you have spun off Ice Cream Social? Well, maybe at some point, but certainly not as early as
No.
you did.
Right.
So,
No idea.
right? Yeah, like it just it gave some of us the impetus to do things differently, and that different has turned out to be amazing. So I love that, right? Take the
Exactly.
lemons, make a lemonade, off you go.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I want to ask you, because you talked about, you're in COVID, you've got a team, you've got these people, we're not doing events. That was a very difficult time for everyone. How did you lead through that? What did that look like?
Hmm. Interesting question that I haven't thought too much about. Um, it was a weird time. I would say I was kind of grateful for this as we went through COVID, but a couple years prior to COVID, I reached extreme burnout. I mean,
Yeah.
burnout to the point I couldn't turn on my computer for months. Like
Oh,
I just stopped working. Like
oh,
it was dark times. And yes, some of it's related to life, but a lot of it had to do with just burnout because, I didn't have a lot of good boundaries in my life, and that really kind of added up. And going through that dark period forced me to create, this is so simple, and I know there's so many books on it, but just create routines and habits in my life that really supported me from a mental health perspective and just efficiency, productivity, and just feel good and, putting my best foot forward. And, some of it's all fairly simple things from like working out, getting in nature, meditating, eating right,
yeah,
reading more, all those simple things that are so easy to ignore at the end of the day when you're tired or when you wake up first thing in the morning and all you want to do is hurry and respond to some emails. And
yeah,
that easily gets pushed aside. And um, as we moved into COVID, you saw a lot of that happen of people who then didn't know what to do with their free time. So they're kind of like, okay, let's
yeah,
make these good habits. And that was awesome. And I was thankful that I did already have that
yeah,
foundation. And so I felt that that kind of helped in my leadership at that time that, one, I could just sympathize or empathize what someone may be going through.
yeah,
And it's one thing when someone's going through that and just telling them, oh, well, you just gotta work out and you just gotta eat right. And
Yeah,
like
that
that
doesn't
doesn't
work.
work. That's not
That
how it
doesn't
works.
work.
So,
Just
and
feel better. That's kind of what
yeah,
you're saying there is just feel
right,
better.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get
Well, if
right
you
on
do
that.
this, you'll feel
Right?
great. And that's not the case for sure. And you have to
Oh,
find the habits that work for you. And that could be
yeah.
I playing video games. Like I love playing video games. So shoot, just taking an hour each day like that is
Yeah.
great for my mental health. So, whatever works for you. But I think going through that helped because I saw a lot of people go through that
Yeah.
during the COVID period for
We-
whatever reason, whether they were worried in a tough situation with
Yeah.
work and health and fear and
Yeah.
all of that.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, COVID was tough. It was tough for all of us. We didn't know what the future would bring. We were all worried about our own health and the health of the people we loved. We saw pictures and video and news report. Like it was a
Hmm.
tough time. It will continue. I mean, they'll be doing, someone's writing a PhD thesis on it right now, I'm sure, but like for decades, right? Just like the Spanish flu after the First World War,
Right.
this I mean, it changes the world. It changes the way we operate. But I really do appreciate, first of all, you talked about it gave you your experience with burnout, gave you a new opportunity to empathize in a new way.
Yes. Yes.
That's really cool. Let me just say, I hate that you had to have the experience. Like this is my mission is like
Right.
female business owners do not have to work themselves to the point of burnout. If you're getting there, call me for real. My email's in the show notes. Send me a message. If that's where you're at, I can help you get out of there. But no, I mean, if nothing else, again, the bright side, you're able to connect with people in a whole new way.
Right.
And it sounds like you uncovered some things that actually were really important for you.
For sure. And
That's
I
cool.
think if I didn't go through that previously, I would have for sure been the person during COVID of sweet. So we have nothing to do. No one can leave their house. So let's work. Let's
Let's
work.
work
Let's
more.
work from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. Like there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And who wanted to talk to anyone like that during COVID?
Yeah,
So
not, I mean, you and I both know that doesn't, working harder doesn't mean you're producing more,
right, right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're in that headspace of the overwhelm and all of that. But no, I really love that. I mean, I think that as leaders in our businesses, I think it is a great question of how are we leveraging some of the tough lessons that we've maybe learned along the way in business, but personally as well, because that one certainly overlaps both sides of the
Yeah,
equation.
for
How
sure.
are we using that to be better leaders for others? Like that to me is the ultimate, right? Because if we can help someone else find the boundaries, create a blend of work and life that's meaningful,
Hmm.
that's that's the whole that like then the whole reason we went through that gross time has some value for
Yeah,
us.
just
Yeah.
to help other people and enjoy their day to day.
Yeah. I love that. When I mean, I hear this a lot from, especially from my clients. I mean, I also have an extensive network of female founders that I associate with. But I hear this a lot. I struggle with boundaries.
Hmm.
Why did you struggle with boundaries? Like what was it for you? I'm always curious.
Oof. I mean, I've done lots of digging on that. I mean, that can go back to, quote unquote childhood trauma and just, what your childhood was like, and then just having not quite understanding fully what you want out of life and just having
Yeah.
almost too narrow of a focus on a goal.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
and
Right.
so, yeah, I just reached a point where I really wanted a more well-rounded life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted
Okay.
to enjoy every aspect of it and not I listened to, I don't even know what episode it was, but one of your podcasts, and it was talking, ladies were talking about like the validation. You didn't want your validation to come from your work rewards. And I was
Yeah.
very much kind of in that mindset of that's like the only place that I felt validation.
Yes.
And so I chased that too much.
Yeah. Well, first of all, so glad you found value in some of our other episodes because you're giving great value in this one. But I think a lot of us are like that. I think a lot of us are in this space. I mean, family dynamics. I mean, we all have some, right?
Yeah.
Um, our family of origin gives us some stuff. Some of that stuff is good stuff.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is not such good stuff, but they
Yeah.
give us stuff. And then, we're just we have some pre-programming, like our operating system
Mm-hmm.
is there's some default programming in there. And for some of us, it is we get validated by being a high achiever. We get validated by, being successful or particularly looking successful.
Yes.
We find validation in having zeros in our bank account. So you talked about as a kid, I want to
Mm-hmm.
make money.
Yeah.
Money's a metric, it's not a value. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Money's a way to measure success, but as you've articulated so well, it's not the only way to measure success,
No.
right? And then, we're constantly searching for the gold. We need somebody to give us the gold star. We're hustling,
Yes.
always hustling for our validation. I mean, you can't see me. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see me. I have my hand up because I too subscribe to that club and have had to work on my own programming a little bit because it was always how good you did in school, or how were you the first chair flute, or were you the captain of the basketball team, right? Oh, you get rewarded, you get praised for that. Well, what do
Mm-hmm.
you learn pretty quick? Oh, that's what gets you recognized, that's what gets
Right.
you validated by
Right.
your family and your friends and society. Yeah. And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm not doing any of the stuff that I love to do.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here? Right?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
I'm like, you get that reward or title or, certain achievement, and you're like, oh, who really cares? Like,
Yeah, that
just,
doesn't feel right. Yeah.
yeah. Ooh, you had a really great performing marketing campaign. Like, okay, well, it's just Facebook. So, uh, you got to remind yourself, yeah, there's other important things. Like, yes, I still strive and want to do well and do great
Sure.
work and get those accolades, but you have to have that balance too of not letting it define you, for sure.
Yeah, beautifully said. I really appreciate the way you put that because I think that's really important, like for me to hear, but also for anyone that's listening, like these amazing female founders that listen to this show, that like your self-worth is not predicated on how you perform in your business and
Yes,
how many zeros are in your bank account and how many new client acquisitions you had last month. Your value is defined by the things you care about the most. Those are your values.
for sure.
And if you don't know what your values are, that's what's causing your overwhelm, your stress, your anxiety, and ultimately your burnout. Did
Yeah,
I say that right?
for
You,
sure. That
you,
was spot on. And I think that that anxiety, that burnout, those feelings, overwhelm that you mentioned that you feel are not necessarily a negative thing. Like I can reflect back now and it sucked, but I'm so glad I went through that burnout because it shifts your perspective. Like
drifted.
those feelings come to surface to show you something in your life is not in alignment. Have the
Yeah.
opportunity to fix that.
Yes.
Easier
Can
said
I
than done, for sure. But
100%. Can I just add, um, Ashley's absolutely right. There is so much to learn from that space. There really is. Um, you don't have to do all of that. There's an
yeah,
easier way, is maybe what I would say. Working with a coach, a really great coach, can help you so that you don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. You can actually find out those things just a little, it's still hard work. Let me be clear. My
Yeah.
clients would tell you I don't let them off the hook. I still put them through the emotional ringer because you got to do that work. But if you get to work with a coach before you go into full scale like burnout and meltdown, you can come out the other side a little bit faster and ready to roll. Let me just say that. Does that
Yes.
is that a shameless self-promotion?
Oh, that's
Today's
perfect. And I
podcast?
am in no way endorsing burnout. For sure. You can avoid
No,
it,
there's
please
no
do.
burnout endorsements here.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate that you found the really valuable lessons from a really dark space. I mean, burnout is unfun. I have been there. I have been there. It is unfun, like
Yeah.
in the fullest description of the word.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that you found super valuable things for yourself and actually that you've brought back as a leader.
Thank you.
That's remarkable.
I'm glad that you have a platform where we can share lessons like this so that
Yes,
others don't have to go through that for sure.
yes. To me, that's actually one of the important elements of this show is like having the real, this is why it's unplugged. We have the real conversation. So thank you for sharing so bravely. I really do appreciate that. Um, okay, so like what now? What now? We're a few years removed from COVID. How has the culture in your team shifted after that? What does that look like? How do you lead now today?
Great question. Um, so one thing that I did want to point out, and I think it ties into the question you're asking me, so
Yeah,
forgive me if it doesn't, but um, early on in my career, and even today, I find myself doing this. And like early in my career, I would say, well, I'm just a marketing person. I don't understand, I'm not a business person. I don't understand the finances. Like, I just want to do what I love, and I love marketing. And that is the wrong mindset. And
I love it.
you do want to expand your thinking beyond that. And you do, let's say if you're an entrepreneur, you do for sure need to understand the finances. You do
Yeah,
need to understand the business aspect. You don't have to be an expert, but you at least need to know enough to be dangerous, to
yeah.
surround yourself with the right people to support. And today, I find myself doing that sometimes, but in different contexts. So it takes me a while to realize it. And I'm realizing it more just as I say it out loud, or where uh, now having, working with software company, it's like, well, I don't understand the technical piece. I don't understand all the language writing, and
Right.
I just know what I know. And that was a lesson that I've had to learn is, okay, I can't expect the developers to understand what I'm saying if I can't understand what they're saying, and
Mm,
we're not speaking the same language.
mm,
So it's kind of like you're at a point where you have to expand your horizons and learn new skills, and
mm.
learn how to um the things that you think that you didn't ever have to know or want to know, or uh, to really just grow in
That
life and your business.
you know what? Thank you. That is a great lesson. And one that I don't know if we've ever had on the show before, like we've ever talked about that. But you do have to really truly have a growth mindset and really be prepared to grow in ways that you never really imagined you wanted to.
Yeah. And I love that you called it a growth mindset, because we hear that all the time. Oh, you need to have a growth
Oh
mindset.
yeah.
And in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm always like, I've got that growth mindset. Like, I am here to grow. But I've always kind of thought, well, I want to grow in the ways that I want to grow. I don't,
Yeah.
but something like the situation I just described,
Yeah.
I have to grow in a way that I don't
I
really
didn't
want to
really
grow,
ever
but
want
I
to.
need to.
Yeah.
And that's what a growth mindset is. And
That's what a growth
as you
mindset
said that
is.
out loud, that just hit me really hard of like, oh,
Okay,
that's what that means.
we're just dropping nuggets all over the place on this show today, me and Ashley. No, I love that. And you're right. I mean, sometimes as business owners, when I'm working with a client who's saying to me, my business is growing, I got to redefine my leadership and my role here. I
Yeah.
can't do all the work. I got to have the team. Let's get the team working. Let's make sure we have a really great culture where people can do the work, like they can deliver. And I want to do this work. This is what I love. I love the marketing. Well, that's great. Let's make sure you're operating at least most of the time in your zone of genius. But
Yes.
actually, what's the work that you have to do?
Yeah.
Because we all have work in our business that we have to do, right? We'd love to get rid of it. And maybe at some point there is the opportunity to do that. But realistically, every job is made up of some work that
Right.
is, it's the shit work. It's just that, like, call it what it is.
Yeah.
It is, and it has to be done. And you're right. You got to approach it with that mindset that's open, and I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow. And I don't know why or how just yet, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I
Exactly.
love that. I love that. Ashley, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation today. This has really been remarkable, and I really appreciate it. Tell us where we can find you. How do we hook up with you?
Sure. You could go to ashley-stanford.com. There you can find a lot about freelancing, digital marketing, Ticket Socket, Ice Cream Social, all the things we talked about, lifestyle as an entrepreneur. You can search for me on LinkedIn, Ashley Stanford, whatever
Love
works
it.
for you.
Love, love, love. Thank you so much for your time today and just this like incredible sprinkle of wisdom. I love it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. This has been great conversation. Love the
Yeah.
podcast. I'm a fan. So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
being
And
here.
if anybody listening is a fan, please share this episode. There are 150 plus episodes behind this. As Ashley mentioned, there's some great conversations with some incredible female founders. Go and check out the back catalog. And we would love to hear from you. Tell us what you think. Send me a note. I'd love to chat. Ashley, thank you again. Profound conversation today.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. I feel so lucky that I get to connect with such amazing female entrepreneurs. And if you enjoyed today's session, would you do me a big favor? Would you hit subscribe and give this episode a 5-star review? I'd also love it if you would share with your friends. We've got a goal here at the Female Founder Unplugged podcast to impact 1,000 female founders. And with your help, we can really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show. And don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. We'll see you next week.